The Biden administration is now accusing Russia of contributing to a global food crisis as they end an agreement to keep grain from getting out of the Ukraine.
Our Washington, D.C. correspondent Rachel Knapp joins us now live from the U.S. Capitol with more. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening, Mike and Eva. So this rare wartime deal helped with keeping global food prices stable, as well as making sure countries that rely and depend on Ukraine's grain get those shipments. But with Russia ending this agreement, U.S. officials say that Russia is now weaponizing food. Ukraine is a major grain producer. Their grain exports help many developing countries where they face serious food insecurities. But this week, the Kremlin announced it was ending an agreement that allowed Ukrainian grain to be exported by sea. Without this deal in place, officials say Russia is using food as a weapon and exasperating food scarcity, hiking up food prices, and harming millions of vulnerable people.
More than half of the 33 million metric tons of grain and foodstuffs that have been shipped through the initiative have gone to developing countries.
Around this time last year, the United Nations and Turkey helped Russia and Ukraine reach the so-called Black Sea Grain Initiative, a rare wartime agreement that allowed Ukraine's grain to pass through Russia's naval blockade in the Black Sea. Since the agreement, Russia has threatened several times to pull out of it, accusing Ukraine of attacking Russian civilian and military facilities in the Black Sea areas. The Kremlin denies that the decision to end this agreement is not in response to a recent attack on a critical bridge connecting occupied Crimean Peninsula to mainland Russia, essentially cutting off a Russian supply route for their troops in southern Ukraine. According to the New York Times, Russian officials blamed Ukraine for the damage to the bridge, but Ukrainian officials have kept silent on whether it played a role. Russia says until their demands are met, the grain deal is off. Officials worry about a lack of other options to get grain out.
I hope that every country is watching this very closely. They will see that Russia is responsible for denying food to people who are desperately need it around the world and to contribute to rising prices at a time when many countries continue to experience very difficult inflation.
When asked if officials can transport the grain either by rail or by trucks out of Ukraine, officials say that it's not, it's very complicated just because that any place over land in Ukraine is very hazardous, and so they really stress that the best option is through the Black Sea.